Hey everyone, how's it going today? Welcome back to another third stimulus check unemployment benefits extension update. So today I really want to talk about how to actually physically stay on the unemployment program, but specifically if you are either from a state that is not planning to end your unemployment program, or if you are from a state that has not yet ended your unemployment, so you still thankfully have some time, because the story and situation right now is that by the end of this week, sadly, 8 states, I believe those specific 8 states are, if I remember, Alabama, Idaho, Indiana, Nebraska, New Hampshire, North Dakota, West Virginia, and Wyoming, I believe, are planning to end their unemployment by the end of this week, on top of the states that have already ended, sadly. I believe they said that by the end of this week, those 8 states, it will probably total about 400,000 people, but the story is, I think it's also important to notice, is that the specific part that's going to be ending is pretty much going to be the PUA, the PUC, and then the FPUC. There are some select states that are only ending the $300 unemployment, but the majority of them will be ending essentially the PUA, the PUC, and then of course the FPUC, which is the $300 bonus. What is not ending is actually going to be the traditional UI. So if you happen to be in one of those states, you can technically still continue unemployment because this is the unemployment program that has essentially been around for just years and years since they signed and started unemployment in general. But the story, of course, is that without the $300 bonus, it's going to make a very, very massive difference. But today I really just want to focus a little bit more about the work search requirements side, because this is going to be the part that a lot of people are going to either, maybe you've already started, or you will be starting very soon, or you just need more clarification on what you actually have to physically do for that. Then I figured this is probably the video for you. So we're going to get straight to it, but as always, the same drill, real quick, 15 seconds is remember to smash the like button in light of, I guess, the fact that hopefully as many are able to stay on as can be. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell for similar videos like this, and also about general finance topics, which we will likely shift into. It's just that, of course, there's a little bit more urgency of trying to get through unemployment and everything. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, thoughts, or actually, interestingly, if you have any particular information to share about your particular state when it comes to like work search, or really honestly anything, because there will be a lot of variations across different states, which we will talk about that just in a little bit. Stay tuned. So I believe at this time about 37 or 8 states are going to be starting to implement their work search. Now technically there's probably even more states, but those 30-something, 38 states are simply the states that were originally loose about work search, but are now starting to relatively enforce it. So if you are in one of the other states, then it is very likely you might have already been on work search this entire time, since for just something longer than maybe even, who knows, several weeks by now. But the story specifically is that how you actually do the work search actually really depends on the state. So we're going to try to talk about it in a just very general perspective, is that some states are doing something. In fact, a lot of states are going to be giving you the option of either doing it electronically or just physically, just on a paper and pen kind of situation. And I believe the story is that if you were to log into your unemployment portal, depending on the state, there should be actually a tab somewhere on there that should actually give you details about what you have to physically do for work search. Now, within that tab, in many cases, there should be a link, or in some cases, when you actually physically claim your unemployment, so the same place that you've been claiming every single week, it is possible that now there's going to be another section now that they're going to have you input the physical information to show that you have been conducting work search. On the other hand, there are also a lot of states that might be doing it by hand. So which one is easier probably depends a lot more on you. I think that if you're relatively tech savvy, it's probably easier to do online. But if you're not, the most savvy when it comes to tech, then the paper option is also available for you. But I think at the end of the day, even when you keep track of it on paper, you probably will still have to send something online. So it is just something really important to note. Now, in terms of what you have to physically do or physically write down on your, or to collect when it comes to your work search, is that this is pretty much the template that Massachusetts is giving out, and even though this is directly from Massachusetts, it kind of highlights what many states are going to be requiring. So for example, like the name of the employer, you might have to put down the date, what is that specific activity, or just the general details about the job that you are physically looking or that you apply to in order to fulfill one of the work search requirements. Now, in terms of how many you have to specifically perform every single week, that part is actually going to depend a lot on your state. So I would physically just Google up your state and then just work search at the very end of it, because it's going to vary across. If I find a resource, maybe I'll put it at the description that kind of highlights. It's just that because there's so much variation, hence why I also kind of recommend if you have any particular information, feel free to share it, because I'm sure a lot of other people in your state will love it. But I believe that the overwhelming majority of states, they're going to be requiring about 3 work search. Some of them maybe it's only 2, some of them maybe 4, some of them maybe 5, but I think the average is typically probably going to be about 3. Now, in terms of what actually physically counts as a work search requirement, this is one of the actual more nicer parts, is because I know that there are also a lot of people that have kind of mentioned about what happens if, let's say, you come from a state or just simply an area or neighborhood where there just physically aren't a lot of jobs. Say, for example, maybe you're on a farm, or you're just basically a very small town where there's not as many jobs physically available. Then the one nice thing about it is that there are actually a lot of flexible ways that you can actually fulfill this. For example, this actually comes directly from the Connecticut state website, or rather the unemployment website, although many states have very similar requirements. I only use it from Connecticut because I think that they wrote it out pretty clearly and simplified, but if you check off of like a lot of the other states, it's very similar to this. But the general idea is that there's actually a lot of things that you can use to fulfill this requirement. Anything from, of course, the very direct answer is just to physically apply for a job. That, you know, obviously counts as an activity, but even other things such as like contacting an employer, attending a job fair, attending a workshop, going to an interview. So if you apply for a job, you can count that as one of the requirements or one of the actions that could fulfill. Let's say, for example, you need to commit 3 work search, and then if you have a job interview from that, you can count that as another action to fulfill one of the 3, again, or just however amount of work search activities you need to perform. So there are really actually a lot of ways that you can fulfill this. Even something as simple as putting together a resume, putting together a cover letter, putting together an application of some kind. All of these things count as an activity, or rather an action, that can fulfill one of the 3 / however many of work search activities that you have to specifically perform per week. Now, when it comes to the PUA and the self-employed side which is a very common question, is that yes, one thing though about it is that if you happen to be on the PUA program, you will likely still have to perform work search activities. But one thing that is nice, I will admit, is that if you happen to be on PUA or simply just self-employed in general, they're actually even more loose and even more flexible about what you can actually use to actually fulfill these requirements, which is a very great thing. For example, a couple of these things right here that's listed is that essentially if you happen to be a business owner, you're self-employed, every single action or activity that you use to try to physically bring back the business counts as one of those requirements. So for example, let's say for example 1 week you decide to try to hunt out more clients. That counts as something. Let's say you attend a training. That counts as your second one. And maybe let's say for example you run a business of some kind and you just create material for this, right? Or simply write down a business plan of some kind. The idea is that as long as you are showing some kind of intention to either bring back your business or to rebuild it up, that can pretty much count. So the nice thing about it is that it is relatively flexible. Of course, there will be variation depending on the state that you live in, but typically this is the answer for the majority of the general idea across most of the states out there. And again, for the self-employed part, this can include anything such as, for example, you're contacting clients, you're writing a future business plan, you're sending out leads, you're just even things such as like maintaining the business itself. So for example, maybe you open shop, but you try to, let's say you change up the facility, or rather just change up the store. Let's say you're trying to upgrade, just anything that kind of is intended to improve the business, that counts as a work search activity, which is the really nice thing. Now, once you have all of these activities kind of lined up, then the general idea is that every single week, you're pretty much going to have to input them into the unemployment system, the same exact place that you've been using to claim every single week. There should be a brand new tab or just a tab that you might even get directed to once you claim your unemployment in the coming weeks if your state ends up deciding to change it. And I believe it's that through all of this, the hope is, and again, keep in mind, is that anything can change at any time, and almost many things, if anything, have already changed, which, you know, obviously the big goal is that we can hopefully just try to hope that as many are able to stay onto the program and that they're able to keep the requirements as loose as can be. But this is pretty much the general idea that's going to be going on across the majority of the states. But beyond that is that that's pretty much what I really just wanted to cover in today's update. So hopefully if you're someone that either has to start or has already been doing your work search requirements, this is able to kind of maybe either give some insight or maybe even make it easier to show that you don't even necessarily have to just be applying to a job to count as one work search activity. Even just any kind of general action that is meant to basically improve or just basically move you further into finding employment counts as it. So hopefully that's able to kind of make it easier for anyone that's trying to figure out, you know, all of the stuff related to this. So with that being said, if you guys found this insightful, maybe consider smashing the like button, consider subscribing for similar videos. I'll put other videos at the very end screen that you guys can check out that hopefully covers other parts of unemployment, stimulus, or just other important topics that at least I think so would be maybe insightful to share. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay well. Feel free to comment honestly just really any suggestions or information, or just honestly just really anything at all. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay well, and hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.